friends, and welcome back to the Soup of the Week with Mr. Jeff. We are working on a taco lentil soup this week. It's week 2. If you didn't check out last week, you can find that video here on our Facebook page or on our YouTube. So check that out. Last week we made a cabbage soup with potatoes and ham. It was delicious. And this week we're working on taco lentil. So I want to give the website that I found this recipe on credit. I found this on ambitiouskitchen.com. It's an amazing website with lots of delicious recipes. So I found this recipe there. It's actually a slow cooker recipe. So I've adapted it just a little bit so we can make it all in one foul swoop. But if you want to make this in a crock pot or a slow cooker, feel free to check out the original recipe on ambitiouskitchen.com. So I've got all of my ingredients gathered here. Let's read through the ingredients list. Make sure we've got everything we need. I've got 4 cloves of garlic. We're about to mince those up. I've got 1 red bell pepper. I've got 1 jalapeno pepper. I've got 1 cup brown or green lentils. I'll be using green lentils today. I've got a can of crushed tomatoes back here. I've got 4 cups vegetarian broth, or I'm going to be using vegetable stock. I've got a can of black beans. Then we have all of our spices. We need chili powder, cumin, dried oregano, paprika, onion powder, cayenne pepper if you like that, if you like the extra heat. So I'm going to be using just a little bit of that in mine. Then salt and pepper, and we're going to be adding some frozen corn at the end. And of course that is optional. Always feel free to add extra veggies or to modify this recipe to cut things that you don't enjoy, because that's the joy of a soup, my friends. You can make it customizable to your taste. So let's dive in here. I don't want to forget to mention that this recipe is vegan and gluten-free the way it's been created. So if you joined me last week, a lot of this is going to be the same in the prepping of the ingredients. We're going to start by crushing our garlic and mincing that up. And then we're going to dive into the onion, which will all be the same as last week. So I'm going to speed through some of this. We're mincing our garlic and our onion to get that. We're going to throw it into this bowl, and we're going to add everything to our pot at the same time. So follow along with me doing that, and then I'll catch up with you on the onion. Garlic is all chopped. I'm adding this to my bowl so we can add all of our freshly chopped ingredients to our pot while it's warm, and our oil is going to cook it all up at once. Moving on to my onion. I did really well with the onion last week. I can already tell this one's going to bother my eyes. Okay, we've got our onion chopped. I mostly survived. Okay, moving on to our pepper. My pepper is starting to show its age, so I'm glad I'm getting to this program just in time. So I like to quarter my peppers and then deal with all the seeds in the middle, because you can kind of cut away from yourself and cut out all of that seed vein. Cut all that out. Lovely. With each quarter, you're gonna get in there away from yourself. So the recipe calls for 1 bell pepper thinly sliced. This is completely up to your personal preferences. So I'm going to cube this, I think. So I'm doing about 1-inch cubes of my bell pepper. If you're noticing too, I'm cutting the pepper skin side down. The knife actually slides much easier through the inner side of the pepper. Okay, so the last chopping we have to do is our jalapeno. A lot of people like to wear gloves when they do this because the spiciness tends to stick with you. So what I like to do, I'm going to cut this without gloves, but I'm going to use lemon juice later to get that acidity off my hands, all that spiciness. I'm going to roll this to try to free up the seed center. This is going to make it a little easier when I'm removing all the seeds from this. So I'm giving it a pretty good roll, good pound. This is how I release some of my pent-up aggression. And we're going to start right at the top here. Give that a slice. And then if our seed column is intact, most of it should come right out. We got a big piece of it. We're cutting it anyway, so it's not a huge deal. But if you were going to try to cut this and leave it in like coins, that's how I like to try to de-seed without having to get too down and dirty. But since we're going to be dicing this up, we can use that same method of quartering this and then cutting away from us to remove that center vein. Again, tap, tap, tap. And then again, cut that right out of there. I feel like I could be using a smaller knife for this. Then I just take the whole cutting board right into the trash. Again, cutting on the inner side of the pepper is going to make our life a lot easier. So if you check out the Ambitious Kitchen version of this recipe, this is where it's going to get a little different, because what that website does is they saute all of these for 5 minutes and then move to a slow cooker. We are going to stay on our stovetop, so this is going to be a little different from the recipe, but if you stick with me, don't worry about that. So we are going to saute all of these until our onions start to brown and soften. Then we are going to add all of our spices, all of our ingredients, except for our corn and our lentils. So let's start adding things to our pot. So we're going to start by putting our pot on a medium-high heat and adding some olive oil. Once our olive oil has had some time to heat up, we add in all of our prepared chopped ingredients. And we want to saute these for about 5 minutes until the onions start to brown and soften. This already smells delicious. Okay, I can see some coloration happening here. My onions are definitely starting to soften up. So I'm going to start to add my other ingredients, starting with my vegetable stock. Here come my black beans that I've just drained. I have a 28-ounce can of crushed tomatoes. And we're ready to start adding all of those spices. So we need 2 teaspoons chili powder. Okay, well, let's call that 2. 1 tablespoon cumin. 1 teaspoon dried oregano. 1/2 teaspoon paprika. 1/4 teaspoon onion powder. And 1/2 teaspoon cayenne pepper. I'm going to do 1/4 teaspoon because I don't like super spicy. We will do dash of spice. Now, all of my seasonings are in here. I want to bring this to a boil and then let it simmer, and then add my lentils and my corn before serving. Beautiful. So I see a nice boil here. I'm going to reduce heat. All of our ingredients are in our pot. We brought them to a full boil, and now we're going to let them simmer for about 30 to 40 minutes before we add in our lentils. Depending on how you like your lentils, those need to simmer for about 30 to 40 minutes themselves, but we are going to add those in our next step. So we'll check back in with you in about 30 minutes. All right, I'm going to start prepping my lentils because they're just about ready to go in. The recipe calls for them to be rinsed, so I'm going to throw 1 cup of lentils into a small dish just to add some water, rinse them off, and then strain them before adding them into my soup. So literally all I'm doing is just adding some room temperature water, just enough to submerge the lentils. I'm going to give them a swish here, just rinse them off. I'm going to be real, I haven't prepared too many lentils in my life. So the packaging said for 2 cups of lentils to put them in so much water and to simmer them for 30 to 45 minutes. We're only doing 1 cup of lentils in this soup, so we're going to check them after 20 minutes, and we're going to add our 1 cup frozen corn as we add this as well. So I'm straining these over and right into our soup they go. Oh, look how delicious this is. Lentils right into the soup. Give those a swish. And we are adding 1 cup frozen corn. Perfect. This is thickened up beautifully while it's simmered. I'm going to fully cover now. Okay, and we'll be back in 20 minutes, which for you will just be just a few seconds. So I checked on my lentils after 20 minutes. They were not done yet, so I put them on for another 10. Let's check out what's going on now and see what else our soup needs. Ooh, that is definitely a rapid simmer. My stove is very temperamental. There's either nothing happening or too much happening. So this is going to be hotter than everything in the world. But let's ladle out just a tiny bit. Looks like I've got a little bit of everything in my bowl here. Ooh, you can see that steam rising, nice and hot. So once this is done and you're really happy with it, you could garnish with cheese. If you want to keep it vegan, you could go with vegan cheese. You could do sour cream, tortilla chips. You could do a lot of different things with this, or you could just serve it up in a bowl. Let's see. I already burned myself once tasting this, so I'm going to be extra careful. The flavors are really nice. You definitely get a lot of kick with this recipe. Lots of spices in there. I think my lentils could still use a few more minutes, but I'm really happy with the flavor of this soup. I'm really happy with the combination of veggies and the beans. So I hope that you're happy with it too. Give it a try. Let me know what you think in the comments. Next week is a holiday, Martin Luther King Day, so there won't be a soup of the week next week, but the week after that, I'll be doing another ambitious kitchen recipe that will be a chicken soup that is delicious. I've made it twice already and I can't get enough. It's really, really wonderful, so check back with me in 2 Mondays for more Soup of the Week with me, Mr. Jeff. Thank you so much for joining me, and I hope you have a safe and healthy week. See you next time, friends.